like perfect oi, fighting in the streets sort of sound.
You know what? For the audience that doesn't know the oi we know, can you explain that? Just in case, I know we've talked about this before, but just because there's people in the chats, break down oi in terms of like skinheads, the working class, racism, and all that stuff. Because you know what? I'm sick and tired of hearing garbage. You still hear it. Like it's kind of like it's like resurfaced. Like we dealt with this. Like we dealt with this back in the day. Like why are we dealing with this again? Like I'm not a racist if I listen to oi. You know what I mean? Like there's can you just tell people about that?
It's funny because that's like maybe you too. That's like your first lesson in being red pilled on like narratives, because you're like what? Because you had the herald for people our age, we're aging ourselves, but you had the Geraldo show episode where these like white power skinheads were on there fighting. Yeah. And there was this sort of narrative that like skinheads are white power. And it's like, okay, maybe in my experience, which has been a couple of decades in and around these groups, that's about 5% of their skinhead population are white power.
That's right.
Can we all realize that Father Turbo was in an oi band and played skinhead music, and he's black?
That's right.
So I guess in a nutshell, the oi scene started. There was punk rock was already a thing in London, and when the skinheads that were a mix of like black kids and white working class kids that were dancing to ska music that we played earlier, then they started getting into the punk sound, and so this oi working class punk started that was a little bit, let's say, less mohawks and pins in your faces and red plaid, and more boots, jeans, and no frills to it, no trying to look like a bright colored peacock or something like that. And it was just like tough street rock and roll. And at some point it was infiltrated with some racist folks. Again, that's 5 to 10% of it totally. Of course, it's boring for any media to focus on and say, let's talk about what working class kids consider punk rock these days, when there's a very small section of it that are white nationalists. No, that's that's a news story there. So that got a lot of the media, and then a lot of regular skinheads that played oi or listened to oi are like, okay, well, that's not us. And I don't necessarily support this either, but I will say I've been to a ton of oi shows where if a white power skinhead showed up or a group, there was absolutely going to be a fight.
Yep.
It did come later to be where it's like, okay, those guys are white power, everyone else is not. We don't have to fight about this. It's stupid. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Most of them will claim somewhere on their records or in a social media post or something like, look, we don't want politics at our show. We're not white. We're not Nazis. We don't support that. Because in this day and age, you kind of have to say that if you're playing music that sounds like that and you've got a shaved head with Doc Martens on. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Most of them, I've known 1 or 2 skinheads in my entire life that were white power, and hundreds that were not. So there you go.
Get your merch today. Go to borednomore.net. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm really happy you said that, and I also wanted to like add to that, if that's okay, that there were many shows where I would go to where like if they noticed any like white, like, you know, any like Nazi type of stuff or whatever, any of that stuff, they would stop you at the door and they'd kick you out. Yeah. And I remember, like, I'm not saying I'm promoting this or agreeing with this, but at the time I was younger or whatever, there'd always be a crowd in the parking lot making sure they didn't get into the show. Absolutely. Yeah. And right next to you, side by side, were like, you just pick the style of music, but there was always skins next to us saying, no, you got like legitimate skins saying like, no, you guys aren't coming in, blah, blah, blah. And you'd look at the skins and they'd be like, like Chicanos, you'd see black guys, you'd see like whatever. Like it would just be like, it would be like a moment of confusion for the people observing from the outside. They didn't understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons why I kind of brought that up, it's kind of like the ethos of punk or those subcultures in general, just generalizing all those types of subcultures. You have a group of people that realize that there's something wrong with the system, let's say, so to speak. And when I mean system, I'm speaking a little bit more broadly than like a regular political person would say, and I would encompass what we view as orthodoxy and how this changed our lives. Mm-hmm. It's like it gave you a perspective on the world around you and kind of like the confusion that you saw, and like things weren't right, and like, whatever it was, political, this and that, but you didn't know how to like ground it into something. You didn't have like a grounding in like a belief system or an understanding of reality, understanding of where you come from and this and that. And a lot of those kids asked the right questions, but it almost seems like they got the wrong answers. So what I'm getting to and what I'm driving towards is like, you have a bunch of
on both
people
sides, on both sides of that white power sharp skin thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
They're fighting something that's not necessary to fight.
Exactly. Exactly.
The Nazi skins, it's like they have this angst, and it's like, well, it's all because of these people, so I hate them. Mm-hmm. And then the sharps, which was called, for those listening, they don't know, it's Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. Mm-hmm. Prejudice sharp. They unfortunately, some of the ones that got sucked into that scene, the anti-racist skinheads, became Antifa.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you can see that, like, just because you're against racism in that scene doesn't mean like, oh, you were great. They got sucked into something down the road too. Mm-hmm. And then sort of like the Bloods and the Crips mm-hmm. thing in the LA in the late 80s and early 90s, it's sort of settled. From the shows I've been to, I can tell. And I can tell a personal success story. A friend mm-hmm. of mine that was big into the Nazi skinhead scene, just a massive guy that you would not want to fight, has been reading church fathers, and has asked me so many questions now, and has ditched that part of his personality, and is trying to be Orthodox now. So it happens. Success stories, people repent from past sins. No reason to hold that against them.
Glory to God. That's why, like, the whole, I mean that, glory to God. I'm not just throwing that out there. That is the beauty of, like, the subculture. The beauty part is, like, when you've run the gasoline in the gas tank as far as you can go with this nihilistic, yes, I'm going to fight against something, you have to come to this point, which I think we've all, like, all of us that have, like, the Orthodox, like, the punk to Orthodox pipeline, if you want to call it that, a lot of us, the common thread of anyone I've spoken to that's come out of that, like that scene, it was truth that they were looking for. And it's like, if if you're part of those scenes and you don't end up, but you're really like genuinely looking for truth, if you keep running through all of the political crap that you hear in that scene, you eventually get to the point where, like, well, how do I ground these ideas of morals? How do I ground these ideas of faith? Why am I here? Why do I exist? Why am I even making music? And when they get to that point, they're going to start looking for something further, something deeper. And I think that's a lot of us that have come out of the subculture. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think it's something that it's important for someone that's not used to these subcultures to understand the mindset of the kid that's going to these shows. Why are they into this music? Before. Now it's kind of changed, and it's kind of become like a costume.
Yeah, it's a little different now. I think the Gen X version of that stuff that we went through, not to sound like that guy, but it was different because there was like a desperate struggle, and before the internet was a huge thing, you're searching for your clan, if you will.
Yes.
No pun intended, not the clan. But so you're looking for other people that feel your angst or whatever. It sounds silly now being 48, but it was a thing. And I know Justin understands. A lot of people in this chat understand it. Tatiana, Joseph. You're looking for answers. It's kind of like the what was that scene called? The political scene where they distrusted Wall Street in like 2011. I cannot think of what they were called, but it was like the answer to the Tea Party. Then they hated Wall Street. I can't remember what they were, But it's like I've identified the problem, yes, but now I'm searching for the answer. And then there's where you go through like a lot of different paths that aren't good typically. And we've done that. You've done that. I've done that. Occupy Wall Street. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, that. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you listen to their actual concerns and what they bitched about, sounds like Tucker Carlson. Sounds like something I might bitch about. But the answer is not Bernie Sanders. And so that's part of the issue. And even for the Tea Party people, which I agreed with, initially that was Ron Paul that started it. And it's like, yes, the Federal Reserve and this system of monetary corruption, definitely not good. What's the answer? And then it got corrupt and it's like, Ted Cruz. It's like, no, that's not the answer either. And now we've seen where that leads to. So I think if we can be open to people searching that can identify problems and are searching for answers, maybe at least nudge them towards what we feel is the correct answer.
Exactly. And like the whole Occupy Wall Street thing, like I had mentioned in a stream previously, the weird thing about that, I mean, it wasn't weird. It was like a real true grass movement sort of situation that occurred that bubbled up. It was the first time I remember in those Occupy Wall Street situations, because I was there too. I remember looking next to me and seeing people where I probably politically wouldn't have agreed on a lot of things. They would be what we would consider a leftist today. And we were all agreeing on one thing. We were all agreeing, we agree this must stop. And I think that's what terrified the ruling elite.
It is.
You know what I mean? And that's how they changed their game plan. And then divide and conquer took a whole thing. I'm going to go on a limb on my own and say I see the same pattern amongst orthodoxy. Okay, so that's why I was trying to build up to this. I see the same exact pattern amongst orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is a true threat to the ruling elite. And you can use that term ruling elite any which way you like. I'm using it as an umbrella term. They see there's a clear threat. These are the individuals that are working for the dark side, the deceiver. Now, the deceiver obviously knows we're a problem for him, right? And for his minion. And the best way to separate it, going back to the Occupy Wall Street, because if you bring up like a lay person that's not Orthodox, whatever, and you start saying, well, do you not see this spiritual issue similar to what you would be fighting against with the Occupy Wall Street scenario, right? They would agree with you. Spiritually speaking, there's a problem here, right? And it just seems that they're using the same tactics, I'm just broadly speaking, within the Orthodox community. You see within our Orthodox community, splintering. You see arguing. So it's no longer that moment that I'm describing where I'm sitting at Occupy Wall Street and I look to the left of me and there's someone that doesn't agree with me. They might be considered a leftist, but we agree on this one thing. So at one point, people were agreeing that what happened in the last couple of years is not cool and it seems demonic. And then all of a sudden they started to ask questions, which opened the door for Christ to walk into that door for them, right, in their lives. And then I think the fear from the elite, the people that want to control the way we do things and see things, started to involve themselves in other ways and started to splinter even the Orthodox community. You know what I mean? Almost like inflaming certain. Even we could even go back to like the whole nationalist thing with the oi bands and skinheads. You see that creeping into orthodoxy too. It's the same game plan. It just seems the same to me. When you see a group of people organically say no, we're not doing this anymore, not everybody in the room has to agree. So that's one thing I really liked about the whole Gilman Street movement in the beginning. You had a room full of people that don't agree on like a lot of things, but they agree on certain things. Certain things that are, you know what I mean? Sorry, I don't mean to be going off on a tangent, but anyways,
I like this.
I see that. I see a same play happening, and it seems to me formulaic. How do you feel about that?
That is a fantastic point. Well, I have personal experience in it. So you mean like hit pieces might be written about you from Orthodox people?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they came after me too.
That's a good point. Yeah. And it's people, there are subversive elements within Orthodoxy that I know are getting, or were, I don't know how this whole USAID and Doge thing worked, but that we're getting funding from NGOs, and they are attacking. Like, I remember when a friend of mine who's a catechumen, I showed her that hit piece from the BBC, and she goes, "Wow, congratulations, BBC. You've attacked 1% of the population. Like, why is this a threat to you?" And it's like, that's a good point. But there are the good thing within Orthodoxy is it's so rooted in truth that the attempts I've seen at trying to undermine certain people like Jay Dyer, Father John Whiteford, Father Turbo, some people that we love and respect, it's like, it doesn't work. It just, such a small percentage that it just doesn't work. Thank God. So yeah, that's a very good point, because we've seen it over and over. And to your point about Occupy Wall Street, that was a threat to the system, to the regime, whatever you want to call it, because the people were at least pointing out the problem. Whether or not we agree on what their solution was accurate. It's like the white blood cells were attacking the wrong thing, sort of, maybe. But after that, I think it was 2012, the New York Times mention of racism. If you see this graph, it boom, shot up. So it's like, there's a group of people, liberal and conservative, a lot of them are young. They're identifying this massive corrupt system. Let's divide them and say that these people are racist and these people are Black Lives Matter or something like that. And the mentions of racism just shot up. Not organically at all. So, and then unfortunately it worked. And so here we are.
Yeah, it's like Ron Paul had pointed out, and many others before him, that a recession begins 6 months to a year before the recession, when they start telling you there's a recession coming. So the telling you the recession coming builds the recession. The recession isn't there like naturally, right?
That's how fake it is.
That's how fake it is,
That's
right?
How fake it is. Yeah.
And I see the media and how things are being presented currently, or have been, whatever, especially the last 5 years, depending on, that doesn't matter what talking point we pick. I see the same thing. And when it comes to our faith, they started to see people bonding on a certain level, and it terrifies them. I mean, think about it. If you were trying to rule people and control people in a particular way, would not be the one place that you're going to have a problem is amongst the Orthodox.
Yes.
The pre-denominational. I mean, we have 2,000 years of like history under our belts where we can be like, we've dealt with this before, man. Like we've dealt with this before. We've dealt with this before in the Balkans. We've dealt with this before, and all through Europe. Like and they will not back down. They will not back down. And anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tirade there.
It's beautiful.
But I clearly see, to me, these connections. That's why I like looking at culture, subculture, just generally speaking, and how it's engineered or how we're pushed or nudged in particular ways. Because I clearly see that, especially in the last 5-6 months now, I'm seeing these patterns over and over again. Anyways, sorry for the rant.
Yeah, well, and people like me, I won't put you in this category.
You can if you want.
We have to be very careful to not feel the temptation. Like, you don't want to become what they say you are.
Yes.
There's always that. Because, like when the alt-right became popular, it's like, fine, you say I'm a racist?
Yes.
I'm a racist. It's like, well, no, don't do that. And the January 6th thing's kind of like the classic example. We're going to go. It's like, boom, you did exactly the worst thing you could do on January 6th. Like, yes, I get your instinct. I get you're upset. But you gave them the perfect quintessential thing to hold up and as an idol on the left and like smash for a long, long time. And you didn't do anything except bad.
So true. I'll help plug your show because it needs it. Because it deserves it. Sorry, not needs it. It deserves it. The Patreon call that you had, that you included me in. Thank you so much for that. With Father John Peck, a lot of the way that he broke things down in that conversation, like it gave me an orthodox perspective on something that can easily be aggravated within me. Like whether he was talking about the you know what I mean? Because he touched on some, like you guys both touched on some subjects that I'm inflamed about.
Me too. I spoke with someone I'm very close with that was on that call afterwards, and she said, I'm glad you asked him a question, but the thing about the jabs and all the things, like you really hold a lot of angst about that. And I'm like, I know. That's why I asked him. And he had some good words about it.
You know, and that's the point. I do too. Like I'm back on the soil where
it's, I don't know how you do it. I'm in Texas and I have angst about it.
Dude, I don't know. All I know is that I'm trying to take the perspective that Father John Peck, and Father Turbo and a few others I've spoken to privately about, like, just putting this to rest for me. I'm trying to deal with that now, and I don't know if I was providentially called to come back to deal with that, because when I left here, things were very different. They're completely different now. It's a different place altogether, and it's something I need to internally, for my well-being, spiritually speaking, I have to put to rest. I have to put it to rest. Somehow I have to find. So when someone was asking about, because I asked that question to Father John Valadez and Father Turbo when I had them on last year, and I asked them about repentance, about that incident, that circumstance, like that time period. And the answer that they both gave me, both Father Turbo and Father John, was very similar to what Father John Peck said, which is kind of like, it doesn't matter. Like, kind of, you have to kind of get past that. You kind of have to like look at it differently. And I think I need to hear that. So like I need to hear it and actually implement it in my life and just kind of move on from that, and then kind of look at other areas, politically speaking or whatever, ideologically speaking, that I have to do the same thing about. And the other thing that he brought up was the whole relationship between men and women, and then giving giving an Orthodox perspective.
We're doing an episode on that in a few
you
weeks.
Have to,
man.
You
that
have
was
to.
Good. It was so good. People were tearing up in there.
I was. I turned my camera off at that point. I was like, I can't deal with this. He's right. Like, they're right. Our priests, like, have to be valued a bit more. I'll just say that. Like, as lay people, like, we just have to value them a bit more. I'll start with the tirade. I'll end that there. Let's do another, 15 minutes. So play a couple of tracks, and then I'm going to wrap her up. Sorry for the tangent if that took up.
If you want more of this, tune in every Sunday night, SOS Radio, live, old school radio style, with an Orthodox perspective on music and culture. Tune in, baby. Coffee hour after coffee hour, a show made by humans for humans. Word to big word and jing jangs and the wiggity wangs and all them things.